Hello, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to number 3 in this playlist of the final mission to find Christians' bones and belongings. And I left you a bit on a cliffhanger last week. So, gosh, I don't know where to begin this week. And actually, I'm just going to show you a book that will be in the film today. It's called The Mystery of the White Lions, Children of the Son of God by Linda Tucker. And you'll notice the definite lion connection here. But in this book, Linda was a skeptic, and she had this remarkable interaction with a lion, which I'll tell you about, which led her on this journey of discovery. And I just want to read a sentence that she says, because this describes this film and what is happening to us at the moment. So she says, I have to come to combine dualities such as faith and fact, myth and reality, and science and religion in a meaningful, interconnected way that I hope illustrates that they should never have been separated. And Africa is working its magic, and I can see why Chris and my grandfather and my parents as well. I'm the only one in the family who's never been to Africa, but I can see, and I know lots of friends who have been to Africa and have lived in Africa, and the pull of Africa and the mystical nature of Africa is coming straight at me as well now. So I left you last week. We had a card, I haven't moved it, a card from Isis, which was the truths revealed, and oh my goodness, truths revealed this week. So yes, I left last week with the Christian's ring, signet ring that I've been given. It's been kept in a safe for 20 years, and for whatever reason I visited mum and dad last week, and they gave me the ring. We talked about it suddenly came into my head, and I said to mum, where is it? Have you still got it? And yes, and dad said, yes, it should be yours now, you take it. So anyway, so if you remember last week, I had this map of Mali where I think Christian, well, from what Chris has told me in trance mediumship sessions, there's an area on the map, and it kind of takes 36 hours to walk. That's what it says on Google Maps. So it's a fair area. But this is the kind of area where I've identified Chris would be, like the bones and belongings. So I've printed out, beginning of the week, I printed out this map, and I got hold of his, had my chain with the ring on, and the ring went mad over one particular area of the map, in circles and moving around. So I zoomed in on Google Maps and then printed that map out, and we got closer and closer and closer in. And in the end, it was literally on a track that ran above a tiny hamlet. We would call it hamlet, just maybe 20 buildings. And there was a foot, like a walking track, which Chris must have followed for we're going to say hundreds of miles. Anyway, there were particular areas that were about 100 meters apart. I mean, I got literally down to that close. And the ring was showing me 2 places on this on the track outside this it was just off the main road, the where the traffic would go. So this was like a walking path alongside it, just down from it, or south of it. And yeah, there were two places that were identified, and my immediate thought was, one place will be the bones and one place will be the belongings. Anyway, I identified these places, and I asked, because we have our Raise community, our Raise group of rescue mediums and rescue mediums in training, and I asked one of the ladies in our inner team who does pendulum work, and asked her if she could just, like, as a as a confirmation for me, because this was the first time I'd really worked with a pendulum, to, oh, by the way, I'm not giving lots of detail in these films. This is going to be like an overview, these films, because the real detail will come in later, probably a proper film. So this is like an overview. I've been told I have to do it as an overview. So anyway, I asked this lady, and she was given another spot about 60 miles down this same track for residual energy of Chris, and she was asked to bring zoom the map out, and she's also identified another area actually in which would cover the River Niger. So I understood the two, because I'd been shown the 2 points on my, when I was doing mine, I understood the two positionings that she'd got. So we're going to park those up, because those, just to record that there are two areas, definite areas. One is before Bamako, the other one is after Bamako. So Bamako's in the middle, and there's one there, Bamako, and then in the river area. So I'm just going to record that. But going back to my finding of this Chris's residue energy, oh my goodness, sorry, I need to turn off my notifications again. It's the group. I felt really ill. I had, when I was doing my pendulum work with Chris's ring, and when I zoomed in on where the energy was, I felt sick. Absolutely. I thought I was going to be sick. So nauseous and really anxious, like impending doom anxious. And I know that's Chris, I was picking up Chris's. So when we experience, just to explain this a little bit more, when we experience a big shock in life, or we are going through an experience that is very threatening, or just threatening our safety and security, we will experience soul loss. So we call it soul loss in the lion shamanics, or shamanism, basically, whatever part of shamanism you practice, but you would experience some soul loss. So part of your soul sort of disengages as a protection. And I was picking up on this final bit of soul loss that Chris had in Africa. I was then holding on to it, so it came through the pendulum, I guess, energetically through into my body, and I was literally experiencing what he was experiencing, which is what we did in trance mediumship when I was tracking he was showing me his final journey. So that was releasing energy all the time we were doing that, but this is like a pocket of residual energy that was still there. Now I was holding on to that energy, and I felt ill. So I did the dowsing work on, or the pendulum work on the Saturday, and that afternoon I just thought, I'm gonna have to go to bed because I'm feeling really quite ill. And we had gone for a walk in the woods with the dogs, and on the way there we had seen, so these are some signs that I was on the right track. So you will always get signs if you're on the right track, or your body will react, or you'll get chills, if your intuition is speaking to you and it's wanting you to notice something, or you are on the right track, you will get signs. So these were the signs that I was on the right track, that I had retrieved Christian's body, or his like last bits of energy. On the way to the walk, we had like literally a huge flock of magpies, which are corvid, black and white. I'm sure you have them probably all around the world, magpies, but we never see them. You might see one or two, but this was a whole flight of them on the way to the walk. Birds are always, especially the corvid family, very, very otherworldly. And then as when we were on the walk in the woods, I suddenly got a chill in my left hand side of my body, and these gusts of winds just came out of nowhere around us, and even my husband went, that's weird. And then on the way back, in the car, to the car, when we got in the car, there was a song on the radio, Christian by China Crisis. And when we got back to the house and I walked into the kitchen, the radio was already on, and it was Africa by Toto. And these were on a, like in the UK where there's a radio 2, they have a playlist. Yeah, this must have been the Saturday. They have a, like, they do a year and then they play all the songs in the charts in that year. That's showing the age. And it was 1983, that the year that they were doing, where Christian and Africa were in the same chart. And the age Chris and I would have been in 1983, I would have been 9 and Christian would have been 8, and that was the year when I think it would make sense where he went to a different school. We were separate, we were always at school together, and then he was separated that year. So yes, so I kind of knew everything was going in the right direction. Anyway, I had been doing, I think I told you last week, I've been attuning to Sekhem energy healing, which is Egyptian. Well, yes, it's Egyptian, and the main goddess that I associate and I'm working with is Sekhmet, who's a lion goddess, lion-headed goddess, should I say. Anyway, I've been doing that attunement, and when I had my, so I'm on level 2 at the moment, and when I had my session, the lady who I'm working with, she's in South Africa, in Cape Town, and she said, oh, you should read this book, The Mystery of the White Lions. Anyway, so because I was ill, and yeah, I've basically had Christian's energy in me, and I just thought I'm just going to go to bed. So I spent all of, well, Saturday evening and Sunday in bed, and I read the book that I'd been recommended. Like, if you get book recommendations, read them, because there will always be information in there to help you, to support you. Often when I have books that are recommended, it's after I've experienced something, and then I'll read the book and there will be an explanation of how I've been experiencing or what's happened to me. So yeah, is this still recording? Yeah, it is. Sorry, the little recording thing's gone away. Yeah, so I read this book. Now, I don't know if I need to explain something else first. Let me just check, because I did actually make some notes. Bear with me. You'll see this is all unedited. Right. So I need to tell you a bit about this lady. Yeah. I won't go into a huge lot of detail, but Linda, who's a big skeptic of anything, she was a writer, and yeah, like me, probably not aware of spirit, or if I was, it was like something that was nothing to do with me, and something I didn't really engage with. But anyway, she had an experience where she was surrounded by a pride of lions out on safari at night, and she was, or the group that she was with, were rescued when a lady walked through the lions to their truck, and then accompanied one of the group to safety so that he could go and get a truck that was running to come and collect them. Now, this lady turned out to be a lion shaman, so she was actually talking to the animals, she was talking to the lions, she was interconnected with them, and she was like, oh, I feel my heart's beating. It's like she was so interconnected with these lions that she could speak to them. Interesting. Anyway, Linda, the lady, was absolutely fascinated by this, obviously, because she just had a near-death experience, and near-death experiences are bound to be revelatory. That's why you have them. So anyway, she went on along this whole book. It's a beautiful book, and she tracked and traced and did so much research and spoke to one of the main shaman associated with the sort of the great mysteries of Africa. And the conclusion in the end was that these lions, she went on the track to trace the white lions of Timbavati. I pronounced that right. These white lions are a special lion of the stars. I don't want to spoil it all too much, but basically these are lions of God. They're like God's messengers and way showers. So yeah, her research basically showed that if I'm just going to show you something here, and then I will explain it. But she shows that basically her research showed that the Great Lion Sphinx up in Giza, and I will go down. We'll miss a few of those, and the white lions that are in Timbavati are all on this. In the beginning of time, they were on the 0 latitude, the north to south latitude line. That's where it is now, but it's now at 31, what we would call it. But at that time it was on the 0 line, and you can see all those stars, they're all lining up here. So in my head, Linda said something about the birth and the death. So they're like the lions are resurrected, and when they're needed, the white lions came back when they were needed. And I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, I wonder where 0 longitude is now. Anyway, it turns out, as you can see, it is where I live, and it is where Christian and I were born, in Pembury in England. It's on the 0 longitude line, and I now live on the 0 line. I was living in the southwest of England, and I moved when Christian went missing. About a year and a half into when he'd gone missing, I actually moved back to the 0 without even realizing it. And I actually live extremely close to, like, within, I don't want to give too much information away, but I live nearly directly on the meridian line from Greenwich, London. And I then looked into this. It was this kind of like birth and death thing going on in my head, and I wondered where the 0 line went from where Chris and I were born through where I am. Where else does this land end up? Where does this line meet on the land? And you'll never guess where. Oh, that is the last mainland mass that it goes through, which is Accra in Ghana. Now, I need to tell you about Accra in Ghana. So I don't know if last week I mentioned about Accra in Ghana. We have a weekly meeting within our raised team, the inner team, and we had been getting so many Ghana references, so many. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because, again, this is for a deeper level. But how do I phrase this? When I was looking for Christian in 2016 on my social media search, I had a lady come forward to me from Ghana, and she said that she thought she'd seen Christian, And we had loads of people like that come through to the group through my Facebook page, the search page, and I kind of like took things with a pinch of salt in the end. We had all sorts of leads that obviously weren't Christian. Obviously there were people just trying to get money. There were, I'll tell you where he is if you blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So I was very wary at that point of information. But this lady, I always followed up these signs, but this lady kept giving me information and was very open. So I phoned her, and to cut a long story short, at that time I believed that she had met Christian. She had met him when he was destitute. She had met him when she said he looked like he had come out of a hospital bed. He looked like he'd come out of been walking through a desert, totally covered in bruises. I've got all the notes here. She said he was really confused. He wanted to go home. They talked to him. She talked to him at a traffic lights, so it was really a quick interaction. But he came straight to her, and she wound down the window, because normally she wouldn't have done, because it just looked like he just looked so awful. But something about him made her open the window, and they had this conversation. And he said, she thought he said, I am a Christian, and I'm from Europe, and I'm trying to get home. And she was like, well, why don't you go to the British embassy? Like, you're in the city, go to the embassy. And he was just very confused and looking awful. And he had a broken nose, which Chris did have a broken nose, and spoke with a smart English accent, but just looked like, she said, he looked like he was a dead man walking. So this was 2016, and I now believe that she saw Chris in his wandering ghost form. She is a Ghanaian lady, but her husband, and this is the one thing that made me think there has to be something in this, because she'd married a Scottish guy, and I don't want to give too much information, but when they weren't traveling around the world with his job, they lived in Scotland, and it was only I just checked it this morning, it was only 10 miles from where Mungo Park was born, who Chris was following in the footsteps of Mungo Park, the explorer. And that was the kind of thing I went, oh my god, that how would that happen? Like, that's just mind-blowing. Sort of, that's more than a coincidence. Even in 2016, when I still thought Chris was alive, and he thought he was still alive, that was too much of a coincidence. So what I believe has happened is that Chris, in his wandering state after he died, because his consciousness was still thinking he was alive, I believe he went to the zero longitude to return home. Just reading Linda's book, it just made so much sense. And Chris, since this, like, he's laughing because he said it's like E.T. If you've watched the film, Steven Spielberg's film E.T., like, it's like E.T. wants to go home to the stars, and he goes to a certain point and calls in his family, and that's exactly what Chris was doing. Something in him was drawing him into the 0 degrees, so he could find his way home, navigate home. So and then looking back, I also this week thinking about it, I looked back and I had so on Christmas Day in 2015, I had started having lucid dreams with Chris. So after his, this is a bit too much in depth now, but just, I'd had a previous experience of speaking with Chris in lucid dreaming, so like astral travel, which happened on my Christmas Day 2015, and I flew to see Chris, and he was sitting on a beach. Now, Accra is on the coast, they have lovely beaches, and he was really upset and depressed, because after I told him that he'd been away from the UK for 12 years, and the effect that his disappearance had had on everybody. And he was really upset about that. But he said he was stuck. He couldn't get further than the coast. There was no more land to go onto, and he he was stuck, and he had no idea what to do. But he said, like, he looked like a tramp. He looked like he looked awful. Not a well-fed tramp, someone who wasn't being looked after. He said, like, nobody bothered him, nobody would even kind of talk to him, and he couldn't understand. Only a few people would sort of interact with him, one of them being this Ghanaian lady, I now know. And I just sort of said, Chris, like, you need to center yourself, you need to become Chris again, you need to become like the popular, sociable, artistic, musical, fun guy that you are. Like, you love children, just like. And I actually said to him, and I wrote it down, and I'm reading it here now, and I said to him, believe in God, pray, and the right moment or action will come. As like, it's like down to the last final details of you coming home, and which we really did believe at that time. And Chris seemed to be okay with that advice, and I kind of wished him a happy Christmas, and then I sort of woke up, and it just, I don't know, it just felt like the truth, like Isis kind of revealing this truth all about the lions. I mean, Nkosi came to us, and I've just looked back, he actually has been hanging on my wall here behind me since the 22nd of February last year. So he's literally, so I'm now recording this on the 24th of February, so he's been up for a year and 2 days. But I always felt that when I put him up on the wall, I actually wrote it down here, the essence of Chris has returned home. It felt like this was Chris in here, and he's a lion of God, Nkosi, for sure. And it felt like Chris was in there. So anyway, reading this book, I was like, all these light bulbs going off, and understanding all these connections with Ghana, with Chris coming home. And so I thought, right, well, I need to get better because I'm still feeling ill. So I thought, for Chris to fully return to the stars, that's how we're kind of seeing it, as a full return to the stars, to fully ascend, I needed to release this energy that I had within me, which was his. So I asked Chris, like, are you a star beast? Are you a star lion? And he said, yes, with your help I will be. So I thought, right, I'm gonna go and this, we've just been through a new moon in Pisces, and I never really have been that interested or pulled in by astronomy. It feels like all far too complex for my brain, but having just read, like, Linda's book is full of the cosmology of Africa and their beliefs in the stars, the lions that are in the stars. So I kind of was interested in that this week, and it's, yeah, the new moon in Pisces, and it's a time of death and rebirth, would you believe it? So with, yeah, this Isis card that I produced, I thought, well, I'm going to, like, if this truth is that I have the Christian's last sort of remnants that I've collected from Africa, he hasn't got any remnants left in the UK, by the way. I've checked in areas where we've been, where we grew up and everything, and there's no energy of him left in the UK. There might, I'm just thinking there might be abroad, but no, this feels like we've done all that. This was the last bit, and I felt like I had to release what was in me back so he could release to the stars fully. So I sat with Isis for a bit on thinking about how am I going to return him, and she showed me her link with Isis's link with a goddess, an West African goddess called Oshun, Oshun, who is like the original mother. She's like a birth doula, so ushering in, and a death doula, so she ushers out as well. And I thought, oh my goodness, well, that's perfect. And I found her. I'd actually been working. I had Oshun had shown herself to me some years ago, actually. Now, probably, I'm thinking about 5 years ago. Rebecca Campbell, who was my first mentor, one of her meditations was Oshun, so that was how I was introduced to Oshun. So I went back and did that meditation again, and in it, you are in a river, and you move in this river towards Oshun, and I could literally feel my energy, so Chris's energy, going to Oshun. It was like she was taking him and rebirthing him, returning him to the stars. So all the energy that I was holding left me. It was like she was magnetic. And then after that, Chris and I, again, I don't want to give too much detail, and like, if you just take this with a pinch of salt, take it as a story if you want, but this was my experience, and it was real to me. Just before we came out of the meditation, Chris and I stood opposite each other, and he was holding my hands, and my tears were flowing, his were flowing as well. And we just called together, we called his bones and belongings to come back. It's almost like him leaving the earthly plane fully has opened the door to these bones. There was always something that was blocking the return. It's like say, if you're a stuck spirit, and you live in a negative energy, that kind of can block the light. I don't know if I'm explaining this well. So you have to, as a rescue medium, you have to support the removal of the negative energy so that they can see the light. And that's how it feels with Chris's bones and belongings. It feels like the door is now open. So anyway, we called them together, we called them back. And the water flow immediately, so instead of rushing away from me, it was like I was the magnet. It was pulling towards me. So that energy is pulling towards me. And yeah, that's the story. And then when I came out of meditation, sorry, I'm releasing. When I came out of meditation, I went upstairs and saw my husband and had lunch, and he was humming this song, and he said, oh God, this is like an earworm that I've had for all morning while you've been downstairs, and I don't know what it is. Anyway, we worked out it's a song by America, and it's called Ventura Highway. And so I'll just read you the lyrics, because this is I believe Chris was showing my husband to tell me, because husbands and even so, I'm just going to say, because there's a couple in our group who have partners who are not spiritual and call all what we do like, oh, you're just like hippie time, off you go and just do your meditation. And I don't believe in it. I don't want to know about it, but just do it. But they actually receive lots of stuff to give to us, so they're definitely connected. Anyway, the chorus is Ventura Highway in the sunshine, where the days are longer, the nights are stronger than moonshine. You're gonna go, I know, because the free wind is blowing through your hair, and the set days surround your daylight there. Seasons crying, no despair, alligator lizards in the air. And it's just I can just see Chris like just off the highway, Ventura Highway. So like, that's Chris moved in freely into the astral realm, and I felt, and like Chris has since, like a couple of days ago, just come back and just shown me how clean he feels, like a shower he's had, and just so thankful. And I feel, yeah, like he tells me now he's pure and clean. and he feels like he's had like the shower. And from his place in the stars, he can now do, he's been amazing already in what he's been doing for us and for Rays and for but there's always, it's obviously not been, he's not been in his full expansion, his full reach, his full soul essence. So now he's in his, from his place in the stars. And yeah, he said he gave me that final message at 06:06 a.m. A couple of mornings ago. So I noticed the numbers, and he said all I now have to do is just flow with whatever comes my way. And it's up to him. I can feel moving to the right here. So he's like off doing what he needs to do to bring the bones and belongings back, his bones and belongings back, and I just flow and just carry on doing these films. And yeah, I'm feeling much better after all that, not surprisingly. What else did I want to share? I think that's it, actually. I think that's quite enough for this week. And I've just been shown that we are really like what Chris and I have to share now, and everybody in Rays, all our rescue mediums who are working, is we are, obviously we do this work pro bono. We can't get money from spirits, but we are being shown like there's an energy exchange, and we are receiving abundance in other ways, because of course money is important, and we all need money and financing, and we will need money to do the work that we need to do in Rays, the extent of the work that we need to do in Rays, and training rescue mediums in waiting. So if you're watching this going, this sounds like something I could do, do come to us in Rays, because I'm just actually going to have a chat with one of our group, and we're going to be creating a membership and like having workshops and training courses, and yeah, this membership where you can come into Rays and find your home. Because I know, being a rescue medium, a spirit releaser, there's all these different names, like it's a long old lonely journey. And to be able to, if I'd had the community in Rays that we have now, when I was searching for Chris, when I was kind of finding my way, I would have done this so much quicker, and I would have had loads of support and friendship and fun, and it's really lighthearted. There has to be so much humor in this, especially when we're dealing with stuck spirits who have had experiences like Chris did. Like there's been a lot of unfinished business, sudden death, traumatic. Like they're not going to come towards you as a safe space if you are in grief yourself, or if you are in fear. Why would they? They wouldn't trust you. They want to be secure. They want to be in a safe place. They've got to trust you. And you can't do that if you yourself are in grief. And that's why it's taken me so long to get to where I am, because I was so much in grief, you know, having a missing brother that just disappears off the face of the earth. How do you heal that? And and for Chris, obviously his grief at his cutting his life short like that, there's just been so much grief and fear that we've had to work through, which has taken years, and you have to be patient with it, but it's so worth it. And obviously we've learned how to do it now a lot quicker. I took many detours and made many mistakes, but they were all part of the learning journey. And I guess I've been shown we have the pearls of wisdom now to support not only stuck spirits, but those looking to be, or who are getting the calling to be rescue mediums. And I do believe there are an awful lot more people now who have been called, particularly during COVID lockdowns, where we've had to be, so much grief and fear has come up during those times, and grief and fear that you never knew was there, or you'd shut down, or you denied or hadn't dealt with at the time. And now like lockdown was such a important time for that to be recognized, to be acknowledged, and to be worked through. And so many people found meditation helpful. There was lots of Reiki attunements going on, and that was like a sign that spirit was waiting for. So that if you are on this pathway of being a rescue medium, and we're going to need thousands and thousands and thousands of us to cope with. I'm feeling like seeing it, feeling it as a backlog. For example, yesterday, no, it wasn't yesterday. I actually had a day off yesterday because the previous night we've had our call with everybody, and the spirit activity around us had been massive, and we were all experiencing like cold drafts coming in, and like it was obvious there was a huge number at my door on my left. So after our meeting, I actually sat and released. I was told 636 stuck spirits, and they just came through me and up through to Chris. And I heard a few thank yous as they went through, but nothing. But it was just there's a huge backlog of stuck spirits, and they're the kind of easy ones because they just recognize us as a bright beacon. And obviously Chris is there, he would have been gathering them up, and they come in all together like a mass release. And actually this morning I was just walking the dogs. I do a lot of walking. And I suddenly felt a young figure on my left. They always come on my left. A young figure who asked very politely if I would be able to help her to find her family, who had gone. She had been left behind. Like she wanted to go with her family, and would I? She was so sweet. I said yes, of course, which is rare because that normally wouldn't happen. Normally it's quite controlled, but I knew that she melted my heart. And Chris was there waiting, so he'd obviously just brought her in. So yes, she released through, and then it went quiet, and then I asked for a sign, had she got where she needed to be, and I just got the word anagram came back. So I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but that's what I got. So I know she is where she should be with her family. So yes, those are the kind of the easy ones who are just waiting around for release. But obviously within Rays we have people. I specialize in cases like Chris as well, and then we have everybody has different particular spirits that they work with who are attracted to their energy, and that energy is light. I mean, if you were to sit in on our inner team meetings, there's a lot of laughing. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of it's really joyful work. Really joyful work. Obviously, I used to be a ghostwriter. So for the living. So I used to, when we lost Chris's story, when he went missing, I made it my mission at the time to help people record their life stories so that their story wouldn't be lost, and the generations left behind wouldn't have to say, oh, I wonder what grandpa did, I wonder what granny did, I wonder what auntie. So that was our mission at that time, to help people record their stories. So I was always sitting there, basically a therapist, hearing people's stories and writing books for them. And my husband would create the books, produce them, and that was fantastic. But it almost feels like now we're doing it. That was training for listening to spirit stories. So yes, we don't get money from spirits for their releases, but they are sharing their stories with us. And that is the pearl of wisdom that we need to begin to pass on to everybody, because we will all die. We will all go back to our spirit. And if you know what to do when you die, basically go to the light. Don't faff about. Don't wait for loved ones. Don't just go to the light, because then when you reach your stars, like Chris has now, you can come and go as you please. And yeah, just don't get stuck earthbound. And that's all part of our education arm, if you like. But anyway, goodness knows what's going to happen next week. I tell you what I'm going to do. Seeing as I did it last week and it kind of set everything going. So I wonder, let me know in the comments if you had any truths revealed. Like if you're following us, what happened to you this week? Have you had any major truths revealed to you that have helped you? Like they might have been shocking. They might have known truths that you didn't really think you wanted to hear, and you're probably maybe in turmoil after hearing them. I'm used to all this now, so I take things that happen. I'm like, well, what do I need to learn from that? This is a pathway. This is a beginning of something. Like it's an ending of something, but it's a new beginning of something. It's a rebirth, the potential. So always think of things as that happen to you. It's almost like don't judge things as good and bad. Just judge, that's what's happening. And why is this happening? What's the lesson I need to learn here? What is this event, this truth? What is it showing me? Yeah. Anyway, so that's truth revealed for this week. Let me know in the comments. Chat away, ask me questions. That's fine. And do subscribe and like the film, because it obviously adds to the algorithm. And I'm not tech and social media savvy, so you'll know what to do. You'll know more about it than me. But anyway, it's interesting that people are finding these films as well. Spirit are bringing people to these films, so we'll pop up just in people's recommended when it opens, and they won't know who we are, what we are, or who I am, because you're the only one that you might be able to see Chris or some spirits around. Actually, somebody did say, somebody commented last week that there's been a lot of activity around, or he said, like, or he, she, I can't remember, that Nkosi was changing color a lot, like going from light to dark. And I watched back the film and he does. And I don't know if I don't think it's me moving, but there's a lot of, I think you're being able to start it. I think spirit is starting to show itself in these films just by the color changing. And sometimes the camera on my laptop just sort of readjusts itself. You will notice I can't see it just when I'm filming, but when you look back at the replays like you can see it. So I think it's becoming more visual. So anyway, so Isis goddess, not Isis anything else. Organizations. This is Isis goddess, who works. I have a very close connection with Isis and with Sekhmet, and they seem to me to be sisters. And another goddess, Durga, Durga, who I use for protection, I've been working with for many years. In fact, I did a Durga protection, and I still do it now all the time. I found a ritual to work with her because I was incredibly scared of spirit once when I first had started to have experiences. It was really frightening. So if anyone's out there that's starting to have experiences of spirits trying to connect in, and like, don't be scared of them. I didn't realize at the time, but it was my own fears that were making me nervous about them. They're just there trying to connect, and you have to put in ground rules with spirits. They don't mean to frighten you, or the ones that you will be attracting if you're listening to this and you're kind of partly in rays even by listening to these films. They will be wanting help and support, so don't be scared of them. It's just like, imagine them as they're people still, if they're earthbound like that. Anyway, what was I saying? Can't remember. Let's just do another card from Isis. For the coming week, what do we need to know, Isis, for the coming week? What's this one? Oh, right. I've never ever had this one, so I'm going to definitely have to look up what this is about. Interesting. Serpent fire, priestess of the serpent sisterhood. Right. Bear with me while I find the book. Oh, here we go. I don't know. What does that mean to you? I hope you can see that clearly. Fire, passion, cleansing, sisterhood. Well, I know at the moment in Rays we have got men in Rays, but we haven't got any men who've like really dived in. They're on the periphery, shall we say, which is a shame. But the sisterhood for sure. Serpent of fire. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Okay, Isis, princess of the serpent sisterhood and queen of the serpent of fire, guides you through transformation now as your energy field grows stronger and old energies are burned away in the process of your growth. Trust that you are growing and are more capable than you have been previously. Do not assess your current ability based on past standards as they no longer apply to you. Okay, you are stronger and more powerful now than you have been before. You need to learn afresh what you are capable of, and Isis helps you now. Okay. There we go. Let's do it. Okay, so the question we end with today is, what are you capable of? And interestingly, that's come up this in our last meeting. Like, what are you actually capable of? You remember, you know, you are much more capable than you even realize. So yes, let's see what comes up for this week. And yeah, do interact, do ask, do comment, do whatever. Don't keep quiet. Talk to us, interact with us. We're here. And if you want to join us in Rays, which is a free membership, like the communal area is free, that's Rays with Chris and Han .digital, which is on the bottom of my Zoom label. And yeah, we'd be happy to welcome you in if you're interested in what we do and you think you might be a rescue medium, you think you might be getting the calling and you want some support. We're there for you. Okay, loads of love. I think that was all I had to share. I'm trusting that you're finding this not only entertaining but also informative and just interesting. Maybe, like I said at the beginning, it's like opening your mind to like expansion, to growth, which is always a good thing. Life is magic. And reach for the stars, I'm being told. Okay, loads of love, and I'll see you next Friday. Okay, bye.